I always loved the smell of the green room before a taping. It was a mix of fresh coffee, antiseptic wipes, and the faint, lingering scent of props and food from the last shoot. Usually, it made me feel calm, in control, like this was my element. But that morning, something felt off. I was pushing the door open to grab my water bottle when I heard voices. Laughter. Quiet, conspiratorial laughter. I froze. Dave's voice, unmistakable, low and confident. Look, we just need to phase Poppy out gently. The sponsors are warming up to Stella, and the audience will follow. Stella's laugh came next. I knew you'd get me this spot eventually. I just had to wait until she got tired. My chest tightened. My water bottle slipped from my fingers, thudding softly against the floor. I should have walked in, confronted them, demanded answers. But instead, I leaned against the wall, listening, stomach twisting. Dave continued, "It's nothing personal. She's talented, yeah, but predictable. Stella can bring the excitement we need. She's fresh." Predictable? I've poured my heart into this show, I thought. I've built it from sketches, recipes, and half a dozen ridiculous ideas you pretended to like. I trusted him. Stella giggled. So, what's the plan? Should I start taking over more segments quietly? Dave chuckled. Exactly. Small steps. By the next season, she'll be out. And no one will question it. Out. The word hit me like a punch. I stepped back. The green room suddenly seemed smaller, suffocating. My mind raced. My body wanted to move, to storm in and tear them apart, but I was frozen in disbelief. So they were planning it all along. Every smile, every pat on the shoulder, every congratulatory text fake. I remembered the nights Dave promised he believed in me. The long brainstorming sessions where he said we were building a brand together. All lies. Every one of them. I could feel my face heat, a mix of anger and sorrow that made my fingers tremble. I wanted to run, to scream, to collapse, but I stayed silent. I let them continue. I needed to hear every word. Honestly, Stella whispered, leaning closer, I never thought it'd be this easy. She has no idea what's coming. I took a deep breath. My hands gripped the edge of the counter until my knuckles turned white. Then, almost too softly, I said, "Excuse me?" Both of them froze. Dave turned first, eyes widening as if seeing me for the first time. "Poppy, it's not what it sounds like." I laughed. A sharp, bitter laugh that made Stella flinch. "Not what it sounds like. You're talking about phasing me out of my own show while I stand right here?" We were just," Dave stammered, but the words fell flat. I shook my head. "You've been planning this behind my back, undermining me every step of the way. And you thought I'd never find out." Stella opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "Save it. I don't need excuses. I need a new plan. One where I don't get played anymore." Dave looked like someone had punched him. "Poppy, please. We can fix this." "It's not. Fix it," I said, my voice rising. "There's nothing to fix. You broke my trust. And trust isn't a rehearsal prop you can just reuse later." I walked out of the green room, shoulders stiff, head held high. The show was still going on inside, lights bright, cameras rolling. But I didn't care anymore. That day, I realized the people I trusted were the ones who would betray me most. And the only way forward was to take control myself. For the first time, I felt a spark, fear mixed with adrenaline. They think they can push me out. They don't know who they're dealing with. I smiled quietly to myself as I stepped onto the studio floor. The game was about to change. The day after I overheard Dave and Stella plotting, I didn't speak to anyone. Not Dave. Not Stella. Not even the interns who flitted around like nothing had happened. I sat in my office, the walls suddenly feeling too small, too confining. The green room betrayal had left me rattled, but it had also sparked something else, clarity. If I stayed, I would be at their mercy. If I left, I could take everything I had earned and build it my way. My mind replayed every sponsor call, every guest segment, every audience message. People loved me, not the show itself. They loved what I brought to it. Authenticity, creativity, energy. And now I realized I could give that to the world on my terms. I leaned back in my chair and opened my laptop. The thought of creating my own platform had crossed my mind before, a YouTube channel, an independent network where I controlled everything. But I'd always held back, waiting for validation, waiting for opportunity, waiting for Dave to finally do the right thing.
Huh.
Now, opportunity was staring me straight in the face. And the best part? I could take the sponsors with me. They weren't loyal to Stella or Dave. They were loyal to me. I called my manager. "I'm done," I said plainly. "I'm leaving the show. Effective immediately." There was silence on the other end. Then, "Poppy, wait. Are you serious?" "Dead serious," I replied. "I've already contacted the sponsors. They're willing to come with me. I'll be launching independently next month." Her gasp was audible. "But your network?" "I don't care about their network. I care about my vision. I'm not going to be sidelined anymore." She paused, then laughed softly. "I've never seen you this determined. I love it. Let's make it happen." I felt a thrill that had nothing to do with adrenaline or revenge. This was control.
Power.
Freedom. That evening, I drafted my announcement. I didn't need to attack anyone. I didn't need to explain betrayal or deception. I just needed to claim my future. After much thought, I've decided to leave my current show and pursue a new independent platform, I typed. I'm excited to bring my content directly to my audience, with the creativity and authenticity they deserve. Thank you for supporting me. I can't wait to share what's coming next. I paused, fingers hovering over the keyboard. My phone buzzed. It was Dave. He'd seen the email draft.
"Poppy, wait.
"Don't do this. We can fix it." I stared at it for a long moment, then deleted it.
No.
Fixing it meant returning to the green room and pretending everything was fine. Pretending I hadn't heard their plan. Pretending I wasn't furious. I wasn't pretending anymore. I pressed send. The reply was instantaneous, from sponsors, from fans, from collaborators. Support, excitement, enthusiasm. I hadn't just left the show. I had created a new space for myself, a space where I didn't have to fight to be seen. Sitting back, I let out a long breath. The future was mine, unclaimed and wide open. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid to step into it. Because I realized something. The betrayal was not the end. It was the spark. And I was ready to ignite. The lights in the studio were blinding, but I didn't flinch. Not today. Today, I wasn't just a chef on a show.
I was a force no one had expected.
Dave and Stella were backstage, whispering as usual, completely unaware that I had overheard everything. That moment in the green room had changed everything. I could see the smug confidence on their faces, the way they leaned into each other, thinking the cameras would never capture the truth. I adjusted my microphone, taking a deep breath. The teleprompter scrolled lines I no longer needed. I didn't need a script to speak my mind. The producer signaled, "We're live in 5-4. I waited.
3, 2.
And then 1. "Good evening, everyone," I said, smiling directly into the camera. The audience clapped, not knowing that the next moments would shock them all. Tonight's show is a little different. Dave blinked, visibly confused. Stella froze, mid-laugh at something whispered in her ear. I let the silence stretch for a beat, letting it sink in. I've decided to step away from this show. I've loved sharing my recipes and cooking with you all, but I realized it's time for me to create my own space, one where I can bring you the content I've always dreamed of. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Cameras panned backstage to capture the stunned expressions of my former coworkers. I want to thank the producers, the crew, and most importantly, you, my viewers. Your support means everything. And because of you, I'm excited to announce that I'll be launching my own independent network starting next month. The applause started small, then built into a roar. Dave looked like someone had slapped him. Stella's jaw dropped. I held up my hand for silence. And to the sponsors who've supported this show, and me, I'm thrilled that many of you will be joining me in this new venture. This isn't a goodbye. This is the start of something new. Together. I smiled, letting the words land. The lights, the cameras, the audience. It all faded behind the clarity of my decision. Dave tried to intervene, stepping forward. Poppy, this is madness. You can't. I cut him off, voice firm. I can. And I am. He opened his mouth again, but I didn't wait. I walked toward the exit, shoulders back, heels clicking against the studio floor. The cameras followed me, capturing every moment. I didn't need to say another word. My actions spoke louder than anything he could shout. Backstage, I could hear whispers, stunned disbelief, murmurs of admiration, even fear. I didn't care. I had taken my power back. Outside the studio, the wind hit my face, and for the first time in months, I felt entirely free. The betrayal, the manipulation, the hidden schemes, all of it had fueled me. And now, I was ready to turn it into something extraordinary. By the end of that night, the headlines were everywhere. Poppy quits live show, launches own network. TV chef takes sponsors and audience to independent platform. Stella and Dave left in shock as Poppy wins big. I read them with a quiet smile. Knowing I hadn't just left a job, I had rewritten the rules. I wasn't a pawn, a co-host, or a background figure anymore. I was the creator, the leader, the one everyone would follow. And the best part? This was only the beginning. I glanced down at my phone. Messages from fans poured in, love, excitement, anticipation. And one in particular caught my eye, a note from a rival chef I'd admired for years. Heard what you did. Interested in a challenge. I smiled. That would be the next chapter. And this time, I wasn't just going to cook for them. I was going to compete, and I was going to win. Because betrayal had taught me one thing: never let anyone else control your story. The day we went live with my independent network felt surreal. Months of planning, negotiating with sponsors, building sets, arranging cameras, lighting, and editing workflows. All of it boiled down to this one moment. And yet there I was, standing in front of the camera like I had always belonged here. Because now, I did. Ready? My manager asked, eyes bright. I took a deep breath. Born ready. The red light blinked on.
Live.
Welcome, everyone, to the first official episode of Poppy's Kitchen. I announced, smiling into the lens. My usual warmth flowed naturally, but under it was something stronger. Confidence, purpose, a kind of quiet vengeance that had nothing to do with anyone else. The audience online was instant, comments flooding in, like skyrocketing. Sponsors cheered behind the scenes, thrilled with the analytics already climbing faster than any projections. And I could feel it. The energy of control, the satisfaction of taking what had been mine all along and using it to create something better. After the initial episode aired, I noticed a message on my email, flagged as urgent. Kai Chun, rival chef. My stomach flipped. Chef Kai was the one whose cooking show I had secretly admired and envied for years. The one who always seemed untouchable, confident, a perfectionist in every chop, every drizzle, every plating. The message was simple. Heard about your launch. Impressive move. Are you up for a challenge? I laughed aloud, catching the attention of the crew. Challenge accepted. I muttered to myself. Within days, the proposal turned into an official series, Poppy vs. Kai. Each episode a culinary duel, judged by fan votes, trending instantly. We started with friendly banter online, teasing each other in promos. Kai, think you can beat me at my own game? Poppy, watch and learn, chef. The chemistry was electric, professional, competitive, and admittedly fun. Off camera, I found myself anticipating his texts, his suggestions, his subtle humor between the shots. On camera, our rivalry drew in viewers like wildfire. Comments flooded in. Best cooking show ever. Poppy and Kai are incredible together. I want them as co-hosts forever. One evening, after a particularly close cook-off where I'd narrowly beaten him, he stayed behind to discuss techniques. You really surprised me today, Kai said, leaning casually against the prep table. His dark hair fell into his eyes, and there was a smirk that somehow made my heart race. I've had a lot of practice, I replied, wiping my hands on a towel, trying to keep my tone light. Practice or revenge, he teased. I laughed, rolling my eyes. Maybe a little of both. He chuckled softly, and for a moment, the tension from the past months, the betrayal, the sabotage, the fear of being pushed aside, melted away. Here was someone who saw me as a competitor, yes, but also as an equal. Someone who respected my talent, my ambition, and maybe even me. That night, I realized the thrill of success wasn't just in winning back what was stolen. It was in creating something new, standing my ground, and discovering allies or partners who matched my energy, my fire, and my vision. As I shut down the cameras, I whispered to myself, this is just the beginning. And this time, I'm writing the rules. Because after everything, I wasn't just Poppy the chef, or Poppy the TV host, or even Poppy the betrayed. I was Poppy the unstoppable, and nothing, not Dave, not Stella, not anyone, could ever take that away from me again. It started on set like any other day. Cameras rolling, fans watching live, ingredients lined up perfectly. But there was something different today. Kai was different. I was different. The first challenge of the day, a mystery basket round. We had 20 minutes to create a dish from random, bizarre ingredients. Mine, sardines, chocolate, and passion fruit. His, goat cheese, jalapenos, and blackberries.
The countdown began.
I glanced at him across the counter. He smirked, leaning casually with his arms crossed. Hope you like the flavor of defeat, he teased. Only if you survive mine first, I shot back, flashing him a grin that hid the way my heart flipped at his presence. As the timer ticked, the playful tension between us became palpable. Every time our hands brushed while grabbing utensils, every glance, every subtle teasing comment carried something more than competition. The fans noticed too. The comment sections exploded with speculation, emojis, and messages like, "Are they flirting?" and "This chemistry is insane." Kai's concentration was impressive. He moved with precision, yet there was a fluidity in his gestures that made him mesmerizing to watch. I found myself stealing glances, noting the way his brow furrowed when he tasted a spoonful, the curve of his smile when something worked. "Need a hand?" he asked, suddenly, offering a ladle across the counter. I hesitated. Did I trust him? Did I want to? Part of me wanted to maintain the rivalry, to keep him at a professional distance. But another part, a deeper, irrational, thrilling part, wanted to accept it. I grabbed the ladle. "Just this once," I said, letting him help me fold the chocolate into the sardines in a surprisingly elegant swirl. "Careful," he whispered, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath. "This could make or break the dish." I swallowed, nodding, trying to focus. But I couldn't. My chest fluttered with something I hadn't expected. Anticipation, excitement, maybe even something like attraction. The buzzer sounded. Time was up. We presented our dishes to the judges, a mix of culinary experts and fan votes. I could feel the tension crackling as Kai and I stood side by side, our dishes glimmering under the studio lights. The judges tasted,
Paused. Laughed. Gasped.
and finally, the verdict. My sardine chocolate passionfruit creation won by a hair. Kai clapped slowly, smiling, genuine, warm, and frustratingly charming. "Well played, Poppy," he said, his tone teasing but not mocking. "I guess you've earned bragging rights for now." I smiled back, feeling a thrill at more than the victory. "Don't worry," I replied, leaning slightly closer than necessary. "You'll get your chance next round." After the show, the crew cleared out, but Kai lingered. "You know," he said softly, "this rivalry, it's fun. But I can't deny, I enjoy working with you." I laughed nervously. I was thinking the same thing. "But don't let it get to your head. I'm still going to crush you next time." He smirked, leaning against the counter casually, as if the world had shrunk to just the two of us in that moment. I wouldn't have it any other way. Walking to my car later, I realized the truth. This wasn't just a professional partnership. It was more. Sparks had ignited, subtle but undeniable, in every glance, every touch, every challenge. And for the first time, I understood that success didn't have to be lonely. It could come with respect, chemistry, and maybe someone who matched me in fire, drive, and ambition. For the first time in months, betrayal and fear were behind me. Ahead, challenges, victories, and Kai. And I couldn't wait. The momentum of the Poppy vs. Kai series was unstoppable. Every new episode trended, every comment section flooded with fans shipping us, guessing, analyzing every glance, every smirk. And I had to admit, I was shipping it too. Kai and I had fallen into a rhythm both on and off camera. On camera, we teased, challenged, and competed like seasoned rivals. Off camera, there were moments, small, fleeting, electric moments, that felt heavier than any culinary challenge. One evening, after a particularly intense cook-off where we had gone head-to-head creating three-course meals from mystery ingredients, we were alone in the studio kitchen. The crew had left, the lights dimmed except for the workstations, and the air smelled of caramelized onions and chocolate ganache. "You're brutal," Kai said, leaning against a counter, arms crossed, watching me plate the last dessert. I smirked, placing a delicate garnish on the plate. "I could say the same about you, but I have to admit, I like it." He raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" I leaned closer, letting my words drop softly, deliberately. "The challenge. The competition. You." For a heartbeat, he didn't respond. Then a slow, teasing smile spread across his face. "Good. Because I was thinking the same thing. But don't get too comfortable. I plan to beat you next round." I laughed, but my chest fluttered. There was something in the way he said it, more than playfulness, more than rivalry. Something that suggested he wanted to connect, to test the boundaries, not just in cooking but with me. Over the next few weeks, our interactions became layered. We would exchange texts after episodes, sharing tips, teasing each other, and sometimes just talking about life. He learned my favorite coffee, my obsession with spicy food, the exact way I liked my pasta cooked. I learned that beneath his confident, sometimes cocky exterior, he was fiercely loyal, sharp, and unexpectedly gentle. One late night, we were filming a bonus episode for our fans, a cook-off challenge in 10 minutes, and we ended up sharing a small workspace. Our hands brushed repeatedly as we reached for utensils, and every time it happened, there was a spark I couldn't ignore. Kai looked up at me, dark eyes soft, and said, "You know, you're even better than I thought. Not just cooking, but everything." I froze for a moment, trying to maintain my composure. "Everything?" I asked, teasing but also vulnerable. "Everything," he repeated, with a quiet intensity that made my heart skip. I swallowed, feeling the heat rise to my cheeks. "Careful, chef. Compliments like that are dangerous." "Good," he said, smirking. "I like a little danger." It wasn't just flirting. It wasn't just sparks. It was respect, admiration, and the subtle recognition that we were equals. We pushed each other, teased each other, challenged each other, and slowly, undeniably, we were drawn closer. By the time the episode ended, we were laughing together over a spilled sauce, hands lingering a moment longer than necessary as we wiped it up. There was comfort there, excitement, and a promise, unspoken, but understood, that whatever this was, it could grow into something real. I realized then that success didn't have to be lonely. And love, maybe it didn't have to be complicated. Not when it came to someone who matched your fire, your ambition, and your heart. And Kai, he matched mine. The week our Poppy vs. Kai episode went viral globally, I couldn't sleep. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from fans, sponsors, media outlets, even networks overseas wanting interviews. The sheer volume made my head spin, but more than that, it filled me with a quiet, thrilling vindication. We had started as a small, independent YouTube show, a passion project born from betrayal and determination. Now, people from Paris to Tokyo were watching us compete, laughing at our banter, marveling at our dishes, and analyzing every look we shared. Kai and I sat in the studio after filming a particularly intense international-themed episode, eating leftover food from the day's challenges. The kitchen smelled like lemongrass, curry, and chocolate, chaotic, alive, and ours. "I can't believe this," I said, taking a bite of his Thai-inspired dessert. Our little project is literally trending in 10 countries. He leaned back, grinning, arms crossed. I told you. You just had to trust yourself. And me, apparently. I laughed, though my stomach fluttered. Trust you. I teased, nudging him with my elbow. You're the one who nearly burned my risotto trying to improve it. Hey, I was innovating, he shot back, eyes twinkling. Creativity takes risks, Poppy. I rolled my eyes, but I couldn't hide my smile. It was effortless with him. Every challenge, every joke, every subtle touch had built this strange, electric rhythm between us. Half rivalry, half partnership, all chemistry. He looked at me differently now, though, in private moments like this. No cameras, no fans, just the two of us surrounded by our own chaos. There was a softness behind his usual smirk, a kind of quiet admiration that made my chest tighten. You know, he said, breaking the comfortable silence, I didn't just enjoy working with you because of the competition. I froze mid-bite.
Oh.
I asked lightly, though my heartbeat was a little faster. Yeah, he admitted, leaning closer. I enjoy this. Being with you in the kitchen, figuring out the dishes, teasing each other, laughing at the mess. It's more than I expected. I laughed nervously, but there was warmth in my eyes. I feel the same way, Kai. But, we have to be careful. The show, the fans, everything, it's complicated. He shrugged, a devil-may-care grin returning. Complicated can be fun. But I'll take the risk if you will. And just like that, the unspoken tension between us shifted, from teasing rivalry to something deeper, something promising. The next day, when our episode went live, the comments were overwhelming. Best show ever. You two are perfect together. Ship them now. It was clear the world loved our dynamic, and I couldn't deny that I did too. As I looked at Kai across the set during the episode, plating our final dishes side by side, I realized something. Success, independence, and even revenge had been thrilling. But this connection, this partnership, this spark, was the reward I hadn't expected. I glanced at him, catching his subtle nod and smirk. In that moment, it wasn't about winning or losing anymore. It was about building something together, professionally, personally, creatively. And maybe, just maybe, we were about to cook up something neither of us had anticipated. A life worth savoring, side by side. The set was buzzing like a beehive, cameras rolling, lights blazing, and the aroma of sizzling ingredients filling every corner. Yet, amidst the chaos, I felt an odd sense of calm. For the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't anxious, I wasn't angry, and I certainly wasn't being undermined by anyone behind my back. Kai was across the counter, focused, intense, but when our eyes met, there was a smile that spoke volumes. That smirk that had started as teasing rivalry had softened, turning into something warm, familiar, and electrifying. Ready for the final round? He asked, voice low, teasing, but carrying an undertone I couldn't ignore. Always, I replied, letting my fingers brush against his as we reached for the same bowl. Sparks, predictable and thrilling, ignited in my chest. Today's challenge wasn't just for points or fan votes. It was for a collaboration, a special live episode we were filming for a global audience. If this went well, we'd be officially co-hosting our own spin-off show together. As we worked side by side, the rhythm between us was effortless. Every glance, every joke, every touch felt deliberate yet natural. I realized then that this wasn't just chemistry for the cameras, it was real. Kai said, leaning closer as I drizzled a sauce on my dessert, we make a pretty good team. I smirked, teasing but soft. Pretty good? I'd say extraordinary. Don't let it go to your head, chef. He chuckled, eyes twinkling. I won't. But I do like standing next to someone who can keep up. The audience saw it. The synergy, the playful banter, the respect. Comments flew in during the live feed. They're perfect together. I want them as a duo forever. Poppy and Kai are goals. Once the segment wrapped, we lingered in the empty studio. The applause and fan messages had faded, leaving us alone in the quiet, smelling faint traces of chocolate, garlic, and adrenaline. Kai looked at me, his expression shifting from playful to something more intimate. You know, I never expected this. Not the show, not you. But I wouldn't change a thing. I felt my heart lift. Neither would I admitted. I've built this from scratch, and somehow, you've become part of it. And part of me. He stepped closer, their space shrinking until there was only a breath between us. Then maybe we should stop pretending this is just professional, he murmured. I laughed softly, nerves tingling. Stop pretending, huh? Bold move. Bold works for me, he replied, his hand brushing mine, lingering just a moment longer than necessary. In that moment, the rivalry, the games, the competition, all of it melted away. What remained was trust, admiration, and a spark neither of us could deny. I realized I didn't have to hide behind my accomplishments to protect myself anymore. I had found someone who respected my talent, challenged me, and cared. Okay, I whispered, a smile playing on my lips. Let's see where this goes in the kitchen and maybe beyond.
He grinned, nodding.
Perfect. But don't think this gives you an advantage in the next challenge. I laughed, shaking my head. We'll see about that, chef. And as we walked off the set together, shoulder to shoulder, I knew this was the start of something bigger. A partnership that combined passion, ambition, and the kind of connection I had only dreamed of. The cameras, the viewers, the fame, they were incredible. But Kai felt like home. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just winning in my career. I was winning at life.